History of the heliograph. The discovery I have made, and which I call heliography, consists in reproducing spontaneously by the action of light, with gradations of tints from black to white, the images received in the camera obscura. Joseph Nicephore Niepce. Cameras are used for a lot of stuff today. For example, security cameras, to secure people's buildings and homes. The cameras in traffic lights are used to sense the presence of a vehicle to change the signals accordingly. Our phone cameras to record and take pictures of things, and so much more. If it wasn't for Joseph Nicephore Niepce, we wouldn't have all of this, and our world would be so much different if we didn't have cameras. How Joseph Nicephore Niepce innovated technology and crossed frontiers through the camera obscura in the early 1800s. Joseph Nicephore Niepce, a French engineer, was born on March 7, 1765, in Chalon-sur, France. His birth parents were Claude Barle and Claude Niepce. His father, Claude Niepce, was a very wealthy lawyer and a king counselor, while Joseph's mother stayed home and cared for the children. Joseph Niepce had 3 siblings, 1 sister and 2 brothers. They were all successful and all invented something. They invented the pyrophore, the first combustion engine in the world, this autotype, experimented with the woad cultivation to scarce the continental system, and lastly, the idea Joseph Niepce was most obsessed with, the camera. However, before he started to work on the camera, he joined the military and served from 1791 to 1794, but left earlier due to getting typhoid fever, and luckily didn't have to fight in the Revolutionary War and survived the illness. Later, he got married after serving the military, retired, had his son Isidore Niepce in 1805, and got into politics in Nice, France. Later, he got back to the idea of making the camera and left politics to work on the camera. He started experimenting with this idea every day and was obsessed with making it happen, and it wasn't until 1816 that he created the first camera to ever exist.
However, his attempts at taking pictures would turn black over time due to the exposure of light and would fail. It wasn't until Joseph Niepce met Jacques de Daguerre. Joseph Niepce learned from him on how to keep the contrast of an image stable, and in 1826 he finally perfected his image known as View from the Window at Le Gras. He took the first picture at his family's country's home and wouldn't have perfected it without the help of Jacques de Daguerre. The way the heliograph worked is it would transmit information by using flashes of sunlight that would reflect off a mirror that flashes and takes the photo. After this process was done, it took 8 hours of exposure and showed the first picture to ever exist. Joseph and Jacques became partners to develop the idea of the camera, securing a 10-year contract, but unfortunately, Joseph Niepce died. Joseph Nicephore Niepce had this idea for many years and always believed he could make his dream come true, and it eventually did. It wasn't until many years later that his good work got noticed and evolved into something greater than his intentions.
Early optics, 1400s to 1700s. This was when different people were trying out different things to be able to make the cameras. Developing a film timeline from 1604 to 1827. Johannes Kepler, an astronomer and generally all-around smart guy, he made the timeline for the camera in that time for people to get ideas. First photograph in 1827. This was the first image taken by Joseph Nicephore Niepce with his camera obscura. Daguerreotype in 1839. Before the daguerreotype was invented, people would have to work as hard as they could to save the image throughout painting it to preserve it. But when the daguerreotype was invented in 1839, the images wouldn't fade away. Enter the camera in 1841, a new camera for metal plates. Photojournalism in 1848 to 1865. This was when the War of Crimea was going on. They used cameras to get the news out to the public. Celluloid roll film from 1835 to 1887. This was when the rolls of cameras were invented. Kodak in 1888 was when a different type of camera was invented by George Eastman. Moving pictures from 1878 to 1900s. This was when the first idea they had of video. 35mm film and the Leica in 1913 was when the first type of 35mm camera ever invented. It was called your Leica. 35mm SLR from 1957 to 1959 was a better version of the 35mm, or also known as the Leica. Digital reigned supreme in 1975 till the present day, when more advanced cameras were invented, just like the ones we have till this day. What we have today in 2022. Today in 2022, we have iOS, Samsung, and so much more. Samsung and iOS have very advanced technology that includes cameras. We also have social media, for example, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and even CapCut, which wouldn't be possible to record this without the camera, and so much more. A lot of people's life depend on the camera because of the influence that the camera has on the world. For example, recently there has been a war going on between Ukraine and Russia. If it wasn't for videos and pictures of what has been happening, we wouldn't have evidence or proof of what's been going on in our world. The internet has proved what Ukraine civilians have gone through and their suffering, from the horrible pictures of their homes being destroyed to the remainings of what's left. This is how this war got nationally and spread throughout the internet, affecting our way of life. We humans sometimes don't consider how lucky we are to have cameras, but without this blessing, we wouldn't know what the world experiences. Cameras have changed and affect our ways of life, and if it wasn't for Joseph Nicephore Nice, we wouldn't have this advanced technology.